We're so glad that you're joining us today. If you've lost a spouse or a partner and people around you can't understand how you're feeling, you can tell by the way that they're saying things to you that they don't know how your world has been flipped upside down, that the loss of a partner or spouse is different from any other kind of grieving. My next author is Tanya Detrik, and she wrote the book called This is Grief: When Breathing Hurts, Love Songs Suck, and Good Days Come with Guilt. Tanya, welcome.
Thank you.
That title, that comes from a place of experience and having been there. Would you share your story about the grief and the special grief that comes with the loss of a spouse or a partner?
It is a special kind of grief. And my experience is that my husband died very suddenly, totally unexpectedly, and right in front of me in our home. And it just happened to be New Year's Eve. So it was a heck of a way to start 2019 the next day. But I wrote this book from that experience during my grief. It wasn't after. A lot of it came from journal entries that I did. So it is very personal and it is very raw, but it's very real.
Because you started journaling and writing shortly after his passing, right?
I did, because I'm a writer anyway, and I needed to talk to him. And so that was how I talked to him. The first thing I did was wrote him a letter.
Wow.
And that is in the book also.
What would you say the main message is of the book?
Well, the main message of the book you touched on is that the loss of a spouse or a partner from death is a very different experience than any other kind of grief. We had a conversation about that. I've lost other people in my life, but this is a very intimate relationship, and everything in your life changes. Every aspect, from eating to shopping to sleeping to even taking out the garbage. And then there's life plans that changed, and finances, and the fog that you're in when you have to handle estate things. And then you have to go through the belongings, and everything reminds you. So it's a very different thing because it is so intimate, and your space is totally changed.
Yeah. I can tell you from reading this that it really is one of the most personal, real, and raw books when you're talking about bereavement that I've ever experienced myself. And the one thing that I notice is that you don't give advice in this. You're not telling people what to do, what to think, how to do it, where to go, when to do it. And that's so unusual for a book about grieving.
That's a great observation, because you're right, it is. I have just about every grief book in the past 10 years on my bookshelf. And really, they're all written by clinicians and counselors and therapists, and nothing wrong with that. But they tend to be very text heavy, advice heavy, what to do heavy, structure heavy, and maybe they put in a few people's stories. But mine is not advice. Mine is is visually presented without a lot of words, but it's not advice. It's the experience, because I want people who go through this to have a kindred spirit, to connect, to be able to emote and not have to have a conversation. For me, it was very difficult to share because either the person didn't understand or I felt like they were judging me. And so that was the point of this book, is it's comfort in your hands.
So would you say that maybe other bereavement books are a how-to and this one is more just because? I don't know. How would you describe it?
It really is not a how-to. In fact, my how-to, I didn't do so well in a lot of cases, and people don't, but that's real. And I think people will see themselves in it if they're going through that. And it is different. So it really is for that target audience that it is going through this. In the very first couple of days, there's no judgment. I said, I thought some pretty crazy, funny. You don't really think you're going to come upon some funny things when you go through this, but you do. Maybe you don't want to admit it. And it really is the experience, and it's beautifully presented. I had a friend designer who knew my spouse, who said when she was designing the book and we collaborated, she felt like she was not alone, that there was energy and a spirit with her. And that may not relate to everyone, but to me, it just shows that it is that feeling that you get maybe when you go in a museum and you see a picture and you don't know what it is, but it touches you somewhere. That's what this book is. It's really sharing the experience so that hopefully the reader feels better.
And I personally feel like this is an especially good bereavement gift.
It is, and I'm
I
so
really do.
glad you said that
Yeah.
because, when we have a friend or someone who is grieving in this way, in any way, really, we look for condolence, a way to condole them, to be compassionate. There's flowers, foods, gifts baskets.
Right.
But this is a very beautiful book. Like, it's a beautiful gift. I intended it to be a gift. It's an 8.5 by 8.5 size, so that
Mhm.
it doesn't feel like your normal book. It's full
Yeah.
color, and it's longer lasting. It's meaningful
Yeah.
as a gift. It's easy to buy and send. And what I did on my website, which is thisisgriefbook.com, is I put some samples of the inside pages, which you don't always get if you're
Yeah.
buying something, let's say, online. And it's all there for you to see what a beautiful thing it is. And I can even
Mm.
send it to whoever's grieving, if you choose that too.
Wow.
We have some options.
There's only so many casseroles and banana breads and,
And you know what?
lasagnas.
We're not hungry when we're grieving. It's that
Mm.
goes to other people, and flowers die. So this
Wow.
is and it's very much like a lot of books I think that you love. You can come back to it and learn or feel something new, which I think is really important. It's designed to be opened. It can be read cover to cover, but designed to be opened for how you're feeling, and you get the
Wow.
message you're supposed to get.
So, Tanya, we talked briefly about how you're different from other grief books. There is a little bit of overlap in the way that we talk about the different stages of grief that we always hear about. I mean, there is some of that intertwined in this, understanding some of the stages.
So the 5 stages of grief, actually, I don't know if anyone knows that the Kubler-Ross wrote that from a study that she did about people who got a terminal diagnosis, which is a little different than this.
Okay.
And she um, comments that grief is not a linear thing, but this kind of grief to me is chaos. And
Ah,
so David Kessler, who wrote with her, also said he, as a counselor, didn't understand grief until he experienced it. So
mm,
that's why this book is the same, but different. And I
yeah.
think this kind of loss is kind of a kaleidoscope of an experience. And I
Wow.
just want to say also that one of the biggest complaints of people who are grieving this way is that their friends don't understand.
Right.
And I could almost see someone grieving buying this book for a friend so that the
Mm,
friend would understand, because when you understand, then you're able to support your friend.
wow. I keep coming back to thinking it's so hard to know what to say in that moment, but your book fills that void so beautifully.
Thank you. And I
Yeah.
think when you know your friend, you know what to say when you know what they're going through. I don't have to put words
Yeah.
in anybody's mouth. Understanding is communication.
Yeah. I love it. Tanya, thank you so much for joining us and for um, being so raw about your own experience and being willing to help other people heal.
Thank you. I feel like it's the best thing that I can do based on my experience.
Okay, if people want to get a hold of you, go ahead and share some information or website or email.
Okay, so you can get to my email from my website. So go to the book website. It's This Is Grief Book, which is the name of the book, thisisgrief.com. So it's
Okay.
thisisgriefbook.com. You can see samples, you can get a hold of me, you can purchase, and I'd love to hear from you. So please take a look.
Thank you, Tanya. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.